Hey Britain, let's talk about something a little awkward. Our money. Specifically the money we send overseas. That's right, folks. Foreign aid. It's a topic guaranteed to get the pub buzzing louder than a swarm of angry wasps in a bagpipe factory. Some say it's the mark of a compassionate nation, lending a hand to those less fortunate. Others reckon it's like fixing your neighbour's leaky roof while your own basement's flooded. It's a tough one, right? £134.1 billion. That's how much we've shelled out in foreign aid since 2014. That's a lot of crumpets in it. So, is charity a luxury we can afford, or is it time to hang up the world's charity box sign and sort out our own backyard first? Let's dive in. Now, £134.1 billion over a decade, it's a big number, no doubt. It's gone towards all sorts, fighting diseases, providing clean water, helping farmers, you name it. And look, nobody's saying those things aren't important, but here's the kicker. That 0.7% of our gross national income we were forking out, that got slashed to 0.5% back in 2021. The government said it was temporary, a response to tough economic times. But let's be honest, when's the last time a temporary government cut was reversed? So, was this a necessary evil, a bit of belt tightening in tough times? Or was it a sign of shifting priorities, a retreat from our global responsibilities? Hold that thought, because things are about to get even more interesting. Here's the thing about that 0.5% target. It caused a right old ruckus. See, back in the day, both the Tories and Labour committed to that 0.7% target. Even after the cut, they both swore they'd bump it back up when the economy allowed. Fast forward to now, 2025. Labour's in charge, but guess what? That 0.5% target, still there, stuck to the budget like a bit of soggy biscuit to a teacup. Even Bill Gates, the bloke who literally gives away billions, reckons it's a bad move. So what's the deal? Is it all about balancing the books, or have we gone from global do-gooders to, well, something a bit less generous? Now, before we all start arguing over our morning tea, let's consider this. The British public isn't exactly united on this whole foreign aid thing. In fact, a whopping 61% reckon it's a distraction from problems closer to home. And can you blame them? The cost of living's gone bonkers, the NHS is working overtime, and don't even get me started on the state of the railways. It's enough to make anyone wonder if charity really should begin at home. But here's the other side of the coin. Helping others, even when times are tough, is kind of what we do. We're British, for crying out loud. We invented queuing, for goodness sake. We can handle a bit of global responsibility, can't we? Section 5. When crisis hits the case of Ukraine. Now let's talk about Ukraine. Back in September 2024, when Putin decided to play Risk with real lives, we dug deep. We're talking £600 million worth of deep. That's a lot of dosh, even for a nation that loves a good whip round. This wasn't just any old aid, mind you. This was the good stuff. Humanitarian aid, energy support, the works. We even sent them some of our fancy Storm Shadow missiles, because nothing says we've got your back like a precision-guided weapon system. Of course, not everyone was thrilled. Some folks reckon we should be focusing on our own cost of living crisis, not someone else's war, but others say it's our duty to help, that standing up for what's right is worth every penny. Section 6, merging departments, shifting priorities. Now remember that whole fixing your neighbour's roof while your basement's flooded analogy? Well, it gets even more complicated when you consider what happened back in 2020. See, the government decided to merge the Department for International Development, DFID, with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, FCO. They called it the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO. Catchy, right? The problem is some folks reckon this whole merger diluted the focus on international development. It's like mixing your tea with your orange juice. You can do it, but does it really work? Critics argue that by lumping development in with diplomacy and foreign policy, we're basically saying, here's some aid, now be our friend. Not exactly the purest form of altruism, is it? Section 7, across the aisles. Where do the parties stand, right? Let's talk politics. Don't worry, we'll keep it snappier than a Prime Minister's questions session after a particularly raucous night at the pub. As we mentioned earlier, both Labour and the Tories are still clinging to that 0.5% target, like it's the last biscuit in the tin. Labour's even thinking about creating a whole new agency within the FCDO, just to spruce up our image on the world stage. Then you've got the other lot. Plaid, Cymru, bless their hearts, want to go straight back to 0.7%. And the Greens? They're aiming even higher, a whole 1% of GNI by 2033. Now that's what I call ambition. So who's got it right? Is it a case of fiscal responsibility versus moral obligation? Or maybe it's all just political posturing? Section 8, a balancing act, weighing needs at home and abroad. Here we are, folks, at the heart of the matter. On one hand, we've got folks struggling to put food on the table, heat their homes, and afford basic necessities. On the other, we have a moral obligation to help those less fortunate, to fight poverty, disease, and injustice around the world. It's a tough one, right? Nobody wants to see anyone suffer, whether they're in Birmingham or Bangladesh. But with limited resources, how do we decide where our priorities lie? Do we focus on fixing our own leaky roof, even if it means our neighbour's house gets rained out? Or do we find a way to do both, even if it means tightening our belts a little? Section 9, the verdict, can we truly afford to choose? So there you have it. The Great British Foreign Aid debate in a nutshell. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's guaranteed to spark a lively discussion down the pub. But here's the thing, maybe it's not about choosing one over the other. Maybe it's about finding a way to do both. Maybe it's about recognizing that investing in other countries isn't just about charity. It's about creating a safer, more prosperous world for everyone, including ourselves. It's about remembering that we're all in this together, whether we like it or not. And maybe, just maybe, that's a legacy worth paying for.